Next question is from Forcera. Question about the Millionaire Next Door formula. When talking about rapidly increasing income, you say use a 3-year average for your average accumulator of wealth or prodigious accumulator of wealth. That's a mouthful. What guidance would you give around decreasing income? My spouse took a pay cut for a better work environment, for example. So do you have any thoughts on how they should think about whether they're an average accumulator of wealth or a prodigious accumulator of wealth? Maybe you could give some context around that too.
Yeah, so let me lay out first what we're talking about here with this formula. There's this formula that was popularized in the Millionaire Next Door that if you want to know where you stand from a net worth state, you can take your age, multiply it times your income, and divide by 10. And that will tell you, that number will tell you, okay, where should my net worth be if I want to be an average accumulator of wealth? If you're below that number, you're an under-accumulator. And then once you are double that number, you're considered what is called a prodigious accumulator of wealth. But we recognize that for young folks, right, it's kind of hard, right? If you're in your 20s or 30s, you haven't had enough time for your wealth to build. So if you do that formula, all it really leads to is you being pretty downtrodden and pretty depressed that your numbers aren't better. So we gave it a little youthful adjustment. And we said, okay, a better formula or an adjustment to that formula is if you're under 40, take your age, multiply it times your income, and then divide by 10 plus the number of years until you're 40. So if you're 30 years old, your denominator would be 10 plus 10, right? That will give you a more accurate representation of where you should be if you are an average or under or over accumulator of wealth. So then we got this question, well, man, my income has gone really, really fast. I mean, it's rising. And so, I just got this big pay raise. And so I do the formula and I'm way behind. Okay, we recognize that. And we said, okay, well, one of the things you can do is kind of smooth your income out. Take your last 3 to 5 years, average it out. Use that income times your age divided by the appropriate denominator. What's really interesting about this question is, okay, what if it's declining? Well, let's think about the mathematics around this at first. If you have been saving the way that you should be saving, right? You have the income, you're saving 25%, your net worth is growing and building, growing and building, growing and building, growing and building. And then because of whatever happens, life circumstance or otherwise, your income drops. Well, what happens is if you are able to appropriately and accordingly reduce your lifestyle to now match that new income, and then you do the formula, you track where your net worth is, where you may have been an average accumulator of wealth at your previous income, if you drop your lifestyle and you refigure the formula, now you might be a prodigious accumulator of wealth. Just the mathematics, right? As the numbers in the numerator change, it affects the overall number. So I would argue if you had a recent pay cut, I'd be less focused on the number. And I'd be more focused on, okay, did I adjust lifestyle accordingly? Because if I was saving 25% at my higher income, but now my income drops, and now I'm only saving 10%, I've got some stuff I got to rework. I got some stuff that I got to retweak, but that's okay. That happens. That's what happens in our financial lives. So I would argue that what most likely will happen with a pay cut is your net worth will actually look better with a lower income than it did with a higher income.
Well, I wanted to give some life advice, and then I wanted to tell them that they're probably using the wrong tool or wrong metric.
Sure.
That I have a better thing that they can go check out. The first here, let me give you some life advice. This is something I've realized about wealth building money, is that part of the hedonic treadmill. You guys have heard me talk about this. This is the how do you create happiness, fulfillment with money, especially as you're walking up your ladder of success. You're supposed to spread the good stuff out. So it's one of those things is like that's why I always get so mad when people come into a large sum of money. Don't go buy the brand new hot car, as well as the brand new house, the brand new lake house, the brand new boat all at once. You've blown all your great opportunities. If you spread out the good stuff, you really create years, if not decades, of fulfillment, happiness, enjoying the journey every time you get something fresh and new in your life. Well, the hedonic treadmill actually works the opposite way when you have something bad in your life happen or something that reduces your stuff, is that you're supposed to stack up stuff as fast as possible. Rip the Band-Aid off. So if you, the example when you look at the research on this is they talk about somebody who's like injured, is that, instead of, changing everything slowly, you should kind of adjust your life fast.
As much as possible.
I'll bring it back to if you lost your job and your income completely changes, then go to the smaller house, go to the smaller car, change your footprint, and you'll probably return to happiness very quickly that way. Whereas if you prolong out cutting your lifestyle down, you've prolonged the unhappiness too long. So that's the life advice. So the first thing was, if you do have a lower income coming into your house right now, go ahead and make as many changes as possible to get yourself back to the equilibrium of happiness as fast as possible. But here's the thing I think you're missing. You're trying to run the formula that we use to figure out if you're an average accumulator, prodigious accumulator. You probably, when you have such a big thing happen where your income is changed, you need to go with our Know Your Number course. If you go to learn.moneyguy.com, because the Know Your Number course is actually going to take your assets. It's going to take what you're saving per year, and it's built off of your living expenses or anticipated living expenses in retirement. That is going to be such a better tool for figuring out, how do I navigate now that my household has cut the money coming in? Am I saving enough to know I'm still going to reach all the goals that I've set for myself, or do I need to have a drastic lifestyle choice? And that leads you back to that hedonic treadmill discussion that I had. So maybe you have a shift in the tool that you're going to be using to figure out how you proceed forward.
Now, I have some clients I work with right now. All this stuff that's going in the tech space, there's been a bunch of reduction in forces. And so one of my clients, this exact thing happened, big reduction in force. And they call me like, hey, I don't know what we're going to do. Our income's gone down. I'm going to find a job, but I won't be able to make what I was making. And we were able to, using our version of Know Your Number and kind of communicating to them, hey, because you did the hard work earlier on in life, even though your income is down, you're saving at your current pace without having to adjust. You don't have to pick up your say. You don't have to make up that debt. Because of all that hard work you did for the last 20 years, you're in such a solid spot that even though you lost your job, even though this was not something that was planned for, you guys are still on the right path towards financial independence. It's just going to be a slightly different timeline than you thought. That's a great place to be. That's why it makes sense to get while the getting is good and save early and often when you're building towards financial independence.